I'm Daniel, 31, and I've always been the invisible one in my family. Not quite the black sheep, more like the one nobody ever really noticed. I wasn't the golden child, that was my older brother, Aaron. Or the dramatic one with a never ending stream of crises. That role belonged to my younger sister, Lily. I was the dependable one. Quiet. The guy who shows up on time, pays his share, and somehow ends up covering the rest when someone conveniently forgets their wallet. The one who gives without asking and gets brushed off on the rare occasion he does. It didn't start that way. There was a time when family actually meant something to me. But slowly, that meaning wore thin, worn down by passive aggressive jabs, behind my back jokes, and guilt tripped favors that were never reciprocated. I learned to let things slide, a sarcastic comment here being left out of a group text there, until one dinner changed everything. It began with a group message from my mom. She sounded genuinely excited this time. "Let's do something big for Grandma's birthday," she said. "Fancy dinner, just close family, my treat." That part, my treat, made me raise an eyebrow. I'd seen her definition of that before. She books the reservation, then mysteriously forgets her wallet. Still, I agreed. I didn't want to stir things up, and Grandma had always been good to me. The only one who ever sent handwritten birthday cards and called just to check in. So, yeah, I was in. I even volunteered to cover the flowers and get there early to help set up. Classic me. The restaurant was one of those upscale Italian places downtown. Cloth napkins, string lights on the patio, the kind of menu where prices are replaced by market value. I arrived early, flowers in hand. I gave them to the hostess along with a little note for Grandma and asked if the table was ready. She smiled and led me toward the back, and that's when I saw it. Two long, beautifully decorated tables with candles and elegant place cards. And then a smaller, sad-looking round table shoved off to the side, practically beside the swinging kitchen door. One wobbly chair, a chipped water glass, and a folded napkin with a place card that read, "Daniel." I blinked. "Excuse me?" I asked the hostess, trying to stay calm. "Is there some mistake? I thought I was seated with the main group." She double-checked her list, then smiled too politely. "This is what your party requested," she said, and walked away. I just stood there, stunned, until the rest of my family arrived. Aaron came in first, loud and glowing in his designer jacket, with his wife clinging to his arm. Mom followed, all dressed up and grinning like she was headed to prom. Lily trailed behind, eyes glued to her phone. They laughed their way to the long tables like royalty arriving at court. Aaron spotted me and grinned. "Well, look who showed up early," he said, like I was some kind of concierge. I gave a stiff nod. "Just wondering, why am I sitting by the kitchen?" He shrugged, glancing at the sad little table like it was roadkill. "That table's for actual family," he said. And the way he said it, it didn't even come off cruel. Just casual, like a plain fact. My aunt, already halfway through a martini, let out a bark of laughter. "Oh, come on, Daniel. You've always been the quiet one. You don't mind, right?" Mom didn't even meet my eyes. She just smoothed her skirt and murmured, "Don't make a scene, honey," as she walked right past me. And just like that, I was dismissed. They all sat down, filled their wine glasses, called for the waiter, and carried on like I didn't exist. I stood there a moment, then, like an idiot, I walked over to that lonely little table and sat. The chair wobbled. The air smelled like garlic and dish soap. Every few minutes, a waiter would come through the kitchen door and give me that awkward half smile that said, "Yikes, sorry, man." I kept my head down, focused on the bread basket they'd brought over. No one spoke to me. No one looked my way. They toasted, took selfies, laughed. Grandma hadn't even arrived yet, but they were already celebrating like she was just an afterthought. I couldn't say what hurt worse. Aaron's offhand comment, Mom's silence, or the way I just accepted it without a word. Halfway through the dinner, the waiter came by with a cautious look. "Excuse me," he said, glancing at a small notepad. "Just confirming, are you covering the check tonight?" That's what the organizer indicated. My mouth opened, then closed. Of course I was. Because when my mom said, "my treat," what she really meant was, "Daniel will cover it eventually." It happened every time. Birthdays, holidays, even Aaron's engagement party. Somehow, the bill always landed in my lap, and I always paid. Because I thought that's what family did. But not this time. I looked across the room. Aaron, mid-laugh, glass raised like some self-appointed king. Mom leaning in close to whisper something to Aunt Teresa, probably about how sensitive I'd been lately. Lily hadn't even looked up from her phone, and suddenly, something just clicked. I didn't belong here. Not because I wasn't family, but because I was the only one acting like that word actually meant something. I picked up my napkin, folded it in half, and placed it gently on the table. Then I stood, walked past the swinging kitchen door one last time, and made my way toward the front. The waiter followed. "Sir, the bill?" I paused, turned, and pointed back toward the long tables. "My seat's by the kitchen. The check belongs to the people with the real seats." Then I walked out, calm and quiet. No shouting, no drama. Just the sound of my shoes against marble and the silence that followed me. Outside, the air was crisp, heavy with the scent of rain and concrete. I slipped into my car and sat for a moment, watching the restaurant's front doors through the windshield. It didn't take long, maybe 30 seconds. Then came the storm. Aaron burst through first, red-faced and waving his arms like I owed him something. "Daniel!" he barked, eyes darting across the sidewalk until they landed on me. "What is wrong with you?" I didn't move. Didn't even roll down the window. Just stared at him like he was a stranger. He jogged up and tapped the glass, once, then harder. "You're seriously sticking us with this? It's nearly $4,000. I cracked the window just enough to let my voice through. "I didn't order anything, didn't sit with you, barely spoke to anyone. But I was still expected to pay? That's not family, Aaron, that's freeloading." He opened his mouth to argue, but Mom appeared behind him, all panic and fake sweetness. "Daniel, please," she said. "Can we just talk? Not here?" I leaned back, eyes flicking between the two of them. "Oh, now you want to talk?" Not when I was stuck next to the kitchen like I was some stray mutt. Not when you walked past me without a word. But now that the check's on the table and no one brought a wallet, now you want to talk? Aaron groaned. "Stop being dramatic." That was it. I rolled the window down all the way, locked eyes with him, and said, "You pointed to that chair and said it was for actual family. So let actual family handle the bill." Then I rolled the window up and drove off. I didn't head home right away. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding, adrenaline buzzing in my ears. But beneath it all was relief. And something else. Something sharper. Clarity. For years, I let myself be the quiet one. The guy who never complained. The one who didn't ask for a seat at the table because he was too afraid of sounding ungrateful. But tonight they reminded me that being family doesn't mean a thing when there's no love, no respect, no decency. I parked by the river, rolled down the windows, and let the sound of the water calm me. The city lights flickered across the surface, and for the first time in a long while, I felt weightless. The lights from the river shimmered as my phone buzzed, once, twice, then a dozen times. "Mom? Daniel, please, let's not do this here." "Aaron, you're being insane. Grow up." "Lily, are you seriously ghosting us over a seat? You were always too sensitive." Then a name popped up that gave me pause. Grandma. She wasn't even supposed to be at the dinner yet. Mike and Mom wanted to set the mood before she arrived, but she must have heard the chaos by now. I answered. Sweetheart? Her voice came through, soft and full of concern. What happened? Your mother's having a meltdown. I exhaled. Grandma, where are you? At the entrance. I just got here. I hesitated. Did they even tell you I was coming? She paused. They told me it was a small dinner. Said you might not be able to make it. I felt a lump rise in my throat. I did come. I was there. Sat by the kitchen. Alone. I left when they tried to hand me the bill for everything. There was a long silence. Then she said, Tell me where you are. 10 minutes later, she climbed into the passenger seat of my car, umbrella folded tightly in one hand, a fierce disapproval etched deep into the lines of her face. I told your mother that if she wanted to act like I was already dead, then she could handle dinner without me. She said it plainly, and then I walked out. I blinked. Wait, what? She pulled off her gloves, adjusted her glasses with precision. You're not the first one they've done this to, Daniel. They've treated your kindness like a blank check for years. Your father used to say the same thing about your mother. She always remembers the price tag, never the person who paid it. I stared at her. Why didn't you say anything before? I thought I'd raised her better, she said quietly. And I thought you'd speak up for yourself eventually. I looked out at the river, the night suddenly feeling a little less cold. I guess I finally did. She smiled, faint but proud. Good. We grabbed takeout and ended up sitting on a park bench. Just the two of us, with 2 paper bags and a bottle of water between us. And for the first time in years, I had dinner with someone who actually wanted me there. But the fallout? Oh, that was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up to absolute chaos in the family group chat. Apparently, no one had brought enough cards to cover the bill. Aaron's had a limit. Lily's was already maxed out. Mom's treat had bounced halfway through processing. They were forced to split the cost 3 ways, and the restaurant wouldn't let them leave until it was paid in full. Aaron texted, This is your fault. Lily, you humiliated us. Mom, you're being cruel. But the worst one came from Mom again. Just one line. I told your grandma this would happen. You've always been vindictive when you don't get attention. That's when it clicked. I wasn't done. If they wanted to draw the line in the sand, fine. I had receipts, literal ones. I'd been covering Mom's utility bills for years. Helped Aaron out of a car lease he couldn't afford last summer. Paid Lily's tuition last minute when her student loans fell through. I kept the records, every transaction, every favor, every silent sacrifice. If they wanted to paint me as the villain, then they were about to find out what being cut off really looked like. I didn't reply to any of the messages. Not even when Aaron called 6 times in a row. Not even when Mom left a 3-minute voicemail sobbing about how the family was falling apart. I wasn't interested in giving them a response. Not yet. They weren't reaching out because they cared. They were reaching out because, for once, the consequences had finally reached them. By that afternoon, the group chat, normally dead silent unless someone wanted something, had turned into a full-blown circus. Lily sent a meme about being the only sane one. Like that excused the fact she laughed from across the table while I sat next to the kitchen. Aaron tried to twist the story, claiming he meant to pay the bill, but the restaurant messed up. I laughed out loud at that one. Aaron hasn't paid for anything since paid for anything. Emily's text came in the next day, and honestly, it made me laugh out loud. Okay, you made your point. Can you at least turn the card back on? I've got stuff in my cart and groceries to buy. Don't be petty. I stared at it, stunned, not because of what she said, but because of what it revealed. It didn't even register to her that something real had happened, that maybe I had a reason for pulling back. No acknowledgement of the dinner? No mention of the kitchen seat? Nothing about the fact that I'd sat there next to a swinging door and a chipped glass, while they laughed like I was invisible. No, in her mind, I was just being petty, as if cutting off years of one-sided generosity was just some childish tantrum, as if everything I'd done for them didn't matter, because now they had to live without it. That was the part that bothered them, not the hurt, not the disrespect, just the fact that their convenience had been interrupted. I didn't reply. I didn't even type a response and delete it. I just put my phone down and let the silence say everything. By Thursday, Mom cracked. She left a voicemail 3 minutes long, her voice carefully calm and sugar sweet in that way she always used when she wanted something. Adam, she began, like everything was normal. We all said things we didn't mean. Tensions were high. But cutting off your family? That's not healthy. That's not love. Families fight. Families mess up. But they don't just walk away. You've always been so giving. Don't let bitterness make you someone you're not. I listened to the message twice. Once to hear the words and once more to hear what was really behind them. She didn't apologize. She didn't take responsibility. She didn't even say she regretted what happened at the restaurant. Instead, she framed it all as me being unhealthy, me being bitter, me losing touch with the generous version of myself they preferred. Because that version served them. That version quietly paid the bill, kept the peace, never asked why he was always the one sitting near the trash. It hit me then, really hit me, that the only version of me they loved was the one who kept giving without question. The one who absorbed the blows, swallowed the insults, and stayed useful. So no, I didn't call back. I didn't text. I didn't cave like they expected. I let the silence stretch out long and quiet, as unfamiliar to them as it was overdue. They were used to a version of me that no longer existed. The one who bailed them out, who kept the ship running, who never made waves. And now that I wasn't answering their calls, wasn't paying their bills, wasn't giving them what they'd gotten so comfortable expecting, their world tilted. For the first time, they were experiencing the real cost of treating someone like a resource instead of a relative. And I was finally at peace with that.
Treated me like a joke? Not when Emily piled on. Not when I paid for your mortgage or his car or her tuition and sat in silence while you all pretended I didn't exist unless you needed something. You never once said, "Hey, Adam's done enough." Not once. She didn't argue, didn't deny it. She just stared down at the pages like they were written in a language she couldn't understand. Her hands, usually so composed, trembled slightly as she tried to keep hold of the stack. "I forwarded those to Grandma," I said, my voice calm but firm. "She thought I should see how my family really talks about me when I'm not around. And you know what? She was right. Your grandmother never should have gotten involved." "She did, because unlike the rest of you, she sees me. She always has." The silence between us stretched long and tight, held together by everything that never had been said out loud. She blinked, tried to collect herself, then straightened her back like she was preparing for the next scene in a drama she still thought she could control. "So, what now?" she asked, folding the papers neatly as if pretending they weren't soaked in humiliation would make them less true. I leaned back in the booth, draping one arm over the backrest, casual but unflinching. "Now nothing. This dinner isn't a reconciliation. It's a reckoning. You asked for a way forward? Here it is. I'm done being your safety net, your guilt sponge, your convenient scapegoat." She blinked at that, her jaw twitching as though she wanted to respond but couldn't find the words. "I'll be civil, I'll be respectful, but I won't be available. Not like before. Not when it's convenient. Not when the bills pile up, or Mike overextends himself again, or Emily needs someone to fix her mess. I won't answer calls meant only to guilt me into service." "You're serious?" "I'm free. And that scares you more than anything, doesn't it?" She didn't respond, just stared at her wine, swirling it slowly, as if trying to find a reflection of the sun she used to control. I stood, placed enough cash on the table to cover my water and her glass of wine, just mine, just this once, then reached for my coat. I hope someday you figure out what love looks like when it's not transactional. Until then, take care. And I left, walked out into the cool night, exhaling years of swallowed resentment with every step I took away from that dimly lit booth. I didn't look back. This time there was nothing left behind worth seeing. Mocked me in front of others, not when Emily piled on, not when I paid for your mortgage or his car or her tuition, and sat in silence while you all pretended I didn't exist unless you needed something. You never once said, "Hey, Adam's done enough." Not once. She didn't argue, didn't deny it. She just stared down at the pages like they were written in a language she couldn't understand. Her hands, usually so composed, trembled slightly as she tried to keep hold of the stack. "I forwarded those to Grandma," I said, my voice calm but firm. "She thought I should see how my family really talks about me when I'm not around. And you know what? She was right. Your grandmother never should have gotten involved." "She did, because unlike the rest of you, she sees me. She always has." The silence between us stretched long and tight, held together by everything that never had been said out loud. She blinked, tried to collect herself, then straightened her back like she was preparing for the next scene in a drama she still thought she could control. "So, what now?" she asked, folding the papers neatly as if pretending they weren't soaked in humiliation would make them less true. I leaned back in the booth, draping one arm over the backrest, casual but unflinching. "Now nothing. This dinner isn't a reconciliation. It's a reckoning. You asked for a way forward. Here it is. I'm done being your safety net, your guilt sponge, your convenient scapegoat." She blinked at that, her jaw twitching as though she wanted to respond but couldn't find the words. "I'll be civil, I'll be respectful, but I won't be available. Not like before. Not when it's convenient. Not when the bills pile up, or Mike overextends himself again, or Emily needs someone to fix her mess. I won't answer calls meant only to guilt me into service." "You're serious?" "I'm free. And that scares you more than anything, doesn't it?" She didn't respond, just stared at her wine, swirling it slowly, as if trying to find a reflection of the sun she used to control. I stood, placed enough cash on the table to cover my water and her glass of wine, just mine, just this once, then reached for my coat. I hope someday you figure out what love looks like when it's not transactional. Until then, take care. And I left, walked out into the cool night, exhaling years of swallowed resentment with every step I took away from that dimly lit booth. I didn't look back. This time there was nothing left behind worth seeing.